It's January the 1st. I'd like to wish everybody a happy new year. Today I've got a rare opportunity to cycle across Imber Ranges and pass through the ghost town of Imber. Today is also day one of a monthly project I've got and an annual one. Plus the fact I've already got freezing feet. It's coming up. I'm riding across MOD property on Salisbury Plain. This is a massive training area for the military and the public are normally forbidden. But a few days each year we get access, and today's one of those days. This Christmas, the access has been from December the 29th until 8 AM tomorrow, January the 2nd. So very few days this Christmas. You can see there's watchtowers there. And then in front we'll be passing some tank carcasses. They're all ex-military tanks that are now used for target practice. So when there's firing up here, it's far too dangerous for the public to be here. Just cycled out from Bath and I've climbed up onto the plain from the town of Warminster in Wiltshire. And then you get to the area where there's barriers and checkpoints in the garrison there, and the public are normally forbidden beyond that part. But we're coming up to a couple of tank carcasses here. I'll zoom in and show you. There's one, and there's the other. We pass many of those on this stretch of the road, and the condition is you do not stray off the road. There's plenty of signs telling you so. Certainly go nowhere near the hulks, because there's going to be live ordnance everywhere. Far too dangerous. We're going to go along here a couple of miles, drop down into what they call the ghost town of Imber. It used to be a very isolated little village set down in a dip on Salisbury Plain, and in 1943 the inhabitants were evacuated so the American army could come in and train and prepare for the D-Day landings and the liberation of Western Europe. And after the war they were never ever allowed back. There's very little of the original village left. There's lots of concrete structures there built up like houses. They're just hollow shells really that the military use for urban warfare training, and you can see it's a huge artillery and tank range here. Down in the dip, one of the remaining buildings is St.Giles Church. It's a 13th century church, and it's part of the Churches Conservation Trust collection of Wiltshire, and that's part of my annual project. I'm actually going to visit all those churches during the year. I was originally going to go to them all on a cycle tour, maybe a 2-night camping cycle tour. The distances were much greater than I anticipated when I mapped it all out, and I just feared that I'd rush it. So I'm going to do several day trips over the summer visiting all these churches. So today is the first one, number 12 on the illustrated diagram, Imber, St. Giles. It's very bleak up here. The public are really granted access, I think, because of the St. Giles Church. Otherwise we probably wouldn't be allowed across these ranges. They're pretty hostile actually. I wouldn't want to be up here in really bad weather. Quite high up, very exposed. So we're going to go to the church today, have a look round. I did go last year and it was heaving with people. I guess the fewer days opportunity, the more people will go on the designated days. So I'm hoping being early morning it won't be too crowded, but we'll see. There's a military vehicle coming along. I understand why the military have got their reservations for letting us in. There's another tank carcass over there. Classic bit of recycling actually. Obsolete tank, but it's finding new use. Target practice. Again, let's see if I can zoom in on that. That's one of the tank carcasses rusting away, which is used for present day target practice. Just walking up past all the training carcasses of the buildings, up to St. Giles Church. Quite busy, as you can see. Very atmospheric though.
But they managed to get permission to do it. Yeah, because the MOD don't like it. The MOD
A bit too busy in there for me actually. As usual, I'll put all the details of the page to this church in the description below. See, it's very busy. Last full day of this little opportunity to come across here. Access will finish at 8 AM tomorrow, so in effect today's the last day. I'm back up by the watchtowers. That was a very fleeting visit today. The church and the whole village was just a little bit too crowded for my liking. The project this year then is to visit all the CCT, Churches Conservation Trust properties in Wiltshire. And I'm going to do day trips and possibly the occasional overnights. My monthly project is Red January. It stands for Run Every Day, but I convert it to Run, Ride or Row, so I've got a rowing machine. And it just encourages you to do physical activity for every day for the month of January, and also combine it with fundraising. And I've done that the last few years. The only time I've ever failed was actually last year, because I had a tooth out on one of the days and the medical advice was don't do rigorous exercise. So with about 2 days to go, I had a day off and I just extended it into February. But I get a lot of satisfaction for that. Firstly, it forces me to do exercise during the month of January, because you can get the post-Christmas blues and the days are very dark. You know, by the time you get to mid or the end of February, if you like the outdoors, you'll certainly notice the days getting longer. But just, I find for January, that's really beneficial. And also, I like donating. I never ask people to sponsor me. I don't even bother registering officially. I always make a £31 donation at the end of the month. £1 for each day. This year, I'm going to break away from the donating my money to the allocated charity. Instead, I'm going to donate it to a cause I've become really passionate about. And that's making a donation to the Churches Conservation Trust to help their historic churches survive, you know, for the next generation. And I looked into how you go about doing that the other day, and there's an easy drop-down menu. It gives you lots of options. You can either donate to a particular church, just a blanket donation to the charity, or there's a roof fund, and that's what I've decided to go for. Because I know doing houses up, if you neglect the roof, everything else underneath it is just a matter of time before it gets trashed. So roofs are so important. So that's what I'm going to do. Exercise every day in January, then make a donation of £31 to the Churches Conservation Trust Roof Fund. Anyway, I'm now going to head back home. The reason my feet are so wet, as I drop down into Coombe Tunnel, I've noticed the last few weeks it's starting to get puddles there. Today there was a really deep flood. I didn't realise it was that bad. By the time I did realise, I just had to ride through it. About 200 yards long, and it actually came up to my shins. And people had put in tree stumps by the look of it, and I nearly rode into one or two of those because I wasn't expecting them. They were like zigzag. I suddenly realised afterwards, I think they'd been put there so people can walk and use them as stepping stones, but I nearly rode into one or two of them. I nearly fell off and went into water, which would have, you know, come right up over my head. So my feet were really soaking. I nearly considered turning around and going home and changing my shoes and socks. And I thought, no, if you go home, it's going to be very difficult to get back out again, which is a good example of Red January. I made the decision to come out. I've made the commitment. I wanted to see it through. Anyway, I'm going to retrace back to Bath. One little thing about the next video, I'm hoping to do another hot tent camp. I've been wrecking a site, so I've just been waiting for a couple of dry days because it's been so wet recently. But my wife's bought me, as a birthday present, an inner for my teepee tent. So I'm really looking forward to that. So hopefully the next video may be me hot tent camping with the teepee outer and my new birthday present inner. Thanks very much for watching. Happy New Year. See you soon.